Hello, I'm Simon Calder. This is Back to the City. Today I have both Maeve and Eloise from SURLY in the studio. This episode will feature both SURLY and Venus de Mars because SURLY and Venus de Mars are both playing at the launch party for the Semple Parade. So you'll be performing at the Bulldog right by Mears Park to kick that off.
Mm-hmm.
But you have all kinds of other stuff going on in June. What do you have going on in June?
This June, we have our third ever Pride Month residency at Mortimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be playing every Wednesday with a bunch of really cool, mainly queer femme bands.
The doorbell ringing, which I think we'll keep in this little promo piece, was almost certainly Venus de Mars arriving to not only conduct an interview, but primarily, actually, the reason why we're all at the MCN6 TV station today is because Venus is shooting parts of the single that Venus will release at the end of Pride Month, and that Venus will premiere live on Saturday, June 15th, immediately after the SURLY set.
And I heard that there's going to be a choir for that performance, too.
There is, yep, there's going to be a choir for that performance. The other part of the music video, I think, is already filmed at St. Mark's Cathedral with said choir.
We have also played with Venus de Mars and All the Pretty Horses 2 or 3 times already, and they're like one of our favorite people to play with too. Their sets are so incredible. They're also amazing people.
I would love to hear a bit about your past experiences performing with Venus.
I think our first time was at Turf Club.
Yeah.
And they headlined the night, or wrapped it out. And it was my first time. It was, I think, all of our first time seeing them. And we were up front row, and our minds were just blown. I've cried every single time I've seen them because their music is so good. Their messages are so strong and powerful. And actually, I think we met Susanna, the guitarist, at our first Mortimer's residency.
I remember Susanna being, I remember Susanna being there.
Awesome, yeah. And that was the first time we met, and I remember her telling me about the band that night. And so then I was excited to play with them when we got to. It was beyond my wildest expectations. And then we played with them again at Mission Room at the Hook and Ladder. And that was for my birthday. They played for my birthday.
Oh, wow.
And that made me really happy, too.
And whenever we play shows with them, we, if we're organizing it, we try and get it so we play before them.
Oh, yeah.
So then we can just, let loose.
Switch off
And
and
watch.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Well, that's
actually,
exactly
they played,
what's happening on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
perfect.
they played our second residency, too, actually. So 3 times, pretty sure.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that I asked and that it happened to all branch out from your first of soon to be 3 Wednesdays at Mortimer's Pride Month.
Yeah.
It makes sense for me to highlight that I invited you to play the Pride Festival because I was invited by the organizers to arrange some kind of live music thing.
Awesome.
And when they initially came to me, one of the ideas was that there could be some kind of Pride-related performance of the national anthem. And what I first thought of, you can probably guess, how do you pronounce the title of that song?
Oh,
to America.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about that song. Well, obviously, SURLY is supposed to play this. So what thoughts do you have about that song in this context?
Well, it's funny you mention that song because we, hate it at this point. Just because it's meant to sound really hard to listen to, like nails on a chalkboard, and the lyrics convey the same thing. But we honestly don't play it that much anymore just because it's just so terrible to listen to.
Right. I wasn't hoping that you would play the song. I just didn't like the idea of the national anthem really being played at the moment at a
Exactly.
Pride festival.
Yeah.
And
Even
so
the tune is just a little like, ah,
yeah,
you
so
know,
I'm on the
at
Yeah.
an event like that.
page as you there.
We initially wrote it to kind of lead into Scrotus.
Yes.
It was our intro to Scrotus, kind of. And actually, I think the coolest time that we played that song was at our, I think, last Mortimer's residency. We passed out the lyrics, and people actually sang along. And I feel like that was probably like the most engaging like performance of that we had, where people could actually really see the lyrics, which are, I think, the important part versus just the noise of the rest
Absolutely.
of the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is
And the
funny.
president calls for the Capitol's burning, and the state shows its heart of the evil within.
Yeah, it is funny you mentioned that song because on our first album, which is admittedly poorly mixed, I will take responsibility for that. There's a couple tracks that just kind of get lost, I think. And also because people, stream the songs that they like and don't really listen to full albums as much these days. So that one, like, I think you might be the first person to ever actually bring that song up to us. Trigger Warning is another one that in the mixing of it, I mastered it wrong, and it's super quiet when you play it on streaming services. And I think people tend to skip over it because it's kind of drowned out.
If any song is supposed to be super loud at
It
parts,
should be that
should
one.
be that one.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like we messed that one up. We also don't play that one live much, but that's partially just because it's very emotionally intense for us and the audience when we
It's
do.
called Trigger Warning for a good
For a reason.
For a reason, yes.
So let's briefly talk about Trigger Warning. And so on which note, Trigger Warning. The refrain is "You might be a rapist," and I think that it's such an intelligently crafted song, and particularly the shift near the end. I think it's so powerful that it goes from "you might be a rapist" if this is the thought process that you have, to the direct address. I feel like it reduces the person that's being addressed to like the piss boy character.
Yeah.
It's really
sure.
powerful and clever. Do you have any reflections on the craft of that song and the way in which it does some signature things that SURLY does? Tempo shifts or like the use of halftime to bring the listener or the audience to these different places. I think it does it particularly masterfully. Do you have any reflections on that song?
Yeah, everything you said is stuff that I was thinking about while writing it. I liked the idea of a song I liked the idea of that song starting with kind of a like playful, like almost like game show, like or I don't know, like an ad, like, do you have this, this, and this? Well, this might be your situation, I thought that would pull people into like, oh, it's catchy, and then I wanted to like
it's catchy and it's clever and it's funny. Obviously, it's not a laughing matter.
Which is what I wanted to show with the rest of the song.
Absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, I think that song is probably one of the less formulaic ones that we have because I do think of it as in sections. Like there's that playful section at the beginning, there's the rage section, which was actually the lyrics in that are genuinely just made up of things that I wrote out of rage in like my notes app and in my journal. I didn't even change any of the like kind of mess of the words that come out in anger. And then the end of the song gets more serious and a little more exhausted, I think, where it's like the sense that you can't just, like sometimes you have to be full of rage all the time, but it is exhausting. And yeah, then like, do you seriously think this? Like person to person, like how can you not see like what you are and what you're doing to others? The last line of the song is about how every woman that I've ever loved in my life has been raped. I wrote that line a while after most of the song, when I realized that fact and was like, oh my God, like that's huge, and I bet that's the situation for most people, and we pretend it isn't because we don't talk about it enough, but that's just how it is.
You characterize one of the sections as like the rage section, and I like the transparency and the assertiveness of, oh, okay, so now that we've established this is the kind of person that you are, and this is the kind of thing that you do, then full transparency, this is how I will be. Since this is how you are, this is how I will be.
Yeah.
And that fits, I think, with I'm a surly girl because I don't take shit, and I'm a surly girl because you're a fucking prick. There I feel it's like, here, I am rageful because you're a fucking prick.
Yeah.
It forces the piece of shit guy to realize what they don't realize, because I don't think you realize that this means you suck. I think it's such a powerful song because it could be a catalyst for such a man actually realizing something and actually shifting in some way.
I hope so. But also with it's hard with expressing anger because people get defensive, and a lot of men don't want to acknowledge to themselves that they are that way and won't because they're too scared to face it. So I don't know, I hope that it could have that effect. And I was hoping that when we were writing it, like the lyrics in that first section of it, we tried to think of like some, like the blurred lines situations, like the situations that a lot of men act like, well, I think that's consent, and like focusing in on those and being like, no, that's actually rape. You think that you're doing something okay for some reason, but you are actually raping someone. And then what you said about addressing the piss boys, something that we've been talking about lately is actually, I don't know if I told you about this. Last time we played Piss Boy at Art of Whirl, do you remember the dude who came up to us afterward and was like, I love you guys, I'm in love with you? Like, he was standing in the back with some other guys, and when you were singing, you like it when I call you that, don't you? He was like, yeah, I do. And something that we've been seeing a lot lately at shows is that Piss Boy, which it's one of our top streamed songs, has actually kind of become a thing that like the men in the audience are like proud to be. And I don't know if that's intentional, because if they were listening, you'd hope that they wouldn't want to be that person.
Right.
But more and more when we announce the song, we can see so many men in the audience like pointing at themselves like, that's me, and it's shocking. Like, we've thought about maybe starting to be like, all right, if you just pointed at yourself, you can leave. Because it feels like, I don't know, even the men who come up to us and kind of harass us after shows or like try to flirt with us or even like compliment our set, but it's just clear that they weren't actually listening at all. And that's pretty frustrating.
Quite.
Yeah.
The first lyric that isn't the phrase piss boy in this song is, you like it when I call you that, don't you? So how meta and weird that then there are actually men that like it and self-identify as the character that is consistently showing up as a reprehensible character. How would someone, again, let's seriously, how does that compute?
Right.
How does someone end up thinking that?
Yeah, and we also, when we play that song, like without fail, the day of, or before we start our set at the venue or whatever, some guy will present himself as the piss boy of the evening, just by being a douchebag or doing something a piss boy would do, and then we're like, well, there we go. And then before we play, we'll be like, all right, so piss boy of the night, this guy, and here's what he did that was shitty. Don't do that. And this song is for you, targeting you. Stop.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even though the lyric, like, you like it when I call you that, don't you, is, like, kind of playful, like, the fact that we regularly introduce the song with, like, this is our piss boy of the night, he did this messed up thing, like, you'd think that people would,
Not
like,
want
really
to call
understand.
themselves.
Yeah, like,
Hello,
that
I'm also
it's not
the
a
piss
good
boy.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, immediately after the song Piss Boy, there's a song called Hey Little Girl, which is interesting because there we're addressing a young girl. Rather than a piss boy, we're addressing a young girl. That's another one which is very well crafted, I think. Let's start with the opening lyric. It's scary but true. Men think that they're entitled to you. We can empathize with the little girl who hasn't learnt that yet, because obviously that's obviously ought not to be the case. And so there's something really interesting and important, I think, about the encounter between you and the younger girl in this song. Do you have any thoughts on how this song is crafted?
Yeah, well, this was the first song that I ever wrote that was, like, punk. It was before we even had a band name, and it was because in college there was a local women's march that I was asked to play with a band, and I just pretended I had a band, and I was like, well, I'll take it, but I gotta write a song now, and it had to be family friendly, which it isn't quite, but it was the closest I could do.
Family friendlier than some of the others.
Yeah. And then that event actually ended up getting snowed out, so it didn't happen, but I had a song and a band name, and that's kind of like right at the beginning of SURLY. So it was addressed to a younger crowd because I was asked to play for a younger crowd or to consider a younger crowd. I also think that, like, it can come off as kind of like telling a child something that a child shouldn't be thinking about. But at the same time, I think that those young girls and young kids are already affected by that stuff. And that's the norm when you're a kid. Like, you don't have any way of knowing what's normal, what's okay, and what's not. So it is kind of harsh, but I also think, hopefully, that young people who are starting to figure out that that's how they're going to be treated in the world can turn to it and know that other people are angry about it too.
Absolutely, yeah. And this song takes as a given and finds it to be the case that the young girl is being taught and raised to please the boys in a certain way. And all the song, I feel, is doing is that it's doing something very important. What it's doing is saying, if you have this experience, if this man is saying this to you or behaving in this way to you, here's a lens through which you could interpret that. Does this lens seem to fit? I thought so. That's because the dynamic seems to be this. And the dynamic doesn't have to be that. Which is why I think it's then really powerful when the song asks, what does it even mean to be a girl? And enables the character that's being addressed to answer that question for themselves and to be themselves.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Yeah. What does it mean to be Surly Girly now? Because, of course, you have the song Surly Girl, which makes statements about who the Surly Girl is and what Surly Girly, the band, does. You have a new record, and you're on the cusp of releasing a couple of singles, the first of which is called Heroes, which we'll talk about a bit. And then you have a song called Rapture as well, and both of these songs are already in your set. So you come to Mortimer's Any Wednesday in June, or if you come to the St. Paul Pride launch, then you viewers will may hear some of these newer songs. If you were to write the song Surly Girl now, as a kind of assertion of what it is to be surly girly, how would it sound?
I think it would sound a little more aggressive if it were up to me. I think we're moving towards a slightly heavier direction with our sound, and not exclusively. Like, we like the we like having a range. And Rapture and Heroes, which are the singles that will be released, are pretty different in that sense.
In Surly Girl, one of the lines is, I don't take shit, and I think we're really trying to lean into that now, because being angry about stuff gets exhausting. I guess we're trying to like use that anger into something that will hopefully like create action. Heroes is talking about like men or people who are like held in a light in the media or wherever, but it turns out they're like actually crappy people and do crappy things, and like they're
Why
not.
are we surprised?
Right.
And it seems like every time we are. And
Yeah.
like that song came partially out of us talking to each other about like some of the men who had been outed as abusers in the media, and we were expressing surprise to each other.
Yeah.
And we were like, why are we surprised? This always happens.
Yeah.
Like, I think no matter what, if we rewrote Surly Girl, it would be different because we are different. The EP was written, let's see, like almost 6 years ago?
Whoa.
5 years ago, I think, 5 years. When we wrote the album, we were in college. We were figuring ourselves out, you know, and like where, what we wanted to do with our feelings about everything and our politics. And I think, if anything, Surly Girl was almost like a more shallow version of what we can and will do going forward, because we've been through more experiences now and are, you know, at least a little more grown up. And I think Surly Girly, when I formed it, was kind of an outlet for me for a lot of personal reasons. And now it feels like something bigger than that. I never thought the band would still be a band at this point. Like, I thought it was just a fun little project I was doing.
Yep.
And then, yeah, when Eloise joined, I feel like we were both all in together, and that kind of solidified it, and we've been all in since. Like, if she hadn't joined the band, I just had, like, classmates and friends that I got to play for me, and we had some permanent members, but they all were going their separate ways after school, and I think it probably would have fallen apart if I didn't have another consistent member dedicated to the project.
And you've been the nucleus, the two of you, and there's been a period of there being alternating bassist and drummer.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
now the full band is in its final form,
Yes.
with Lil Red on bass and Princess B on the drums. I like that in response to my question about Surly Girl, what it means to be a Surly Girl, what it means to be Surly Girly, the lyric from the chorus that was drawn attention to by Eloise is I'm a surly girl because I don't take shit. And the next lyric is I'm a surly girl because you're a fucking prick. I feel that going back to our discussion before of the song Trigger Warning, that makes me think of the Rage section. And the Rage section being addressed to the fucking prick. This is who you are. I see who you are, and in this moment where you are who you are and I see who you are, then I am going to be this.
Yeah.
Which is great, but it's not the whole story of who the I is. Whereas I don't take shit is closer to the full story of who the I is, and it's not dependent on the piss boy or the guy. You have a bunch of on the bio, it says bombastic covers, and you do. And one that you've had for a while is I Hate Myself for Loving You by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, which also has an interesting lyric about pride. I think of you every night and day, you took my heart and you took my pride away. Do you have any thoughts about that lyric and the dynamic that's explored in that song, but then also in songs like Worst? I feel like there's an interesting connection between I Hate Myself for Loving You and Worst.
Well, I like that you drew a connection between those two songs. My first thought is what you were saying about, like, I don't take shit being closer to the full story. It's still not the full story, you know? Like, there's so much complexity to navigating relationships and to navigating gendered stuff. And even as a raging feminist, you can still have conflicts internally about relationships and about romance and about what you deserve. And I mean, something that I've struggled with and am getting better at because of SURLY. And that SURLY I've always hoped would help me personally with is actually treating myself the way that I advocate for others to be treated in the music. And so there's also like, it's more complicated than just the, like, I don't know, people call us man-haters a lot from our music, and like, that just feels so reductive. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree, but like, there's just, everything's complicated, and Worst is about like feeling like I couldn't like advocate for myself or like stand up for myself because I was so attracted to someone. And I Hate Myself for Loving You is kind of also about like, I feel like I'm like, oh, actually there's a line in Worst that I guess kind of reminds me of that Joan Jett song, which I didn't realize till now, but I hate
Venus de Mars is at the front.
I hate how I feel bad until you turn me soft. I feel like that kind of makes me think of Joan Jett, just how she's such a badass, but then she also has that I Hate Myself for Loving You, where she's kind of beaten herself up because she's heartbroken about someone and feels like her pride has been taken away, which it often feels like when you are caught up in feelings that you don't want to have. And yeah,
so it's interesting there, catching oneself kind of hating one's softness because you're a fucking prick.
yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't be hating my own softness if you weren't a fucking prick.
Yeah,
Because my softness is lovely.
yeah.
And when you were saying about being characterized as man haters, I think it's obvious, like, knowing you, being like your friend, like, you're not a hateful person. That's like extremely far from the essential truth of who you are. Every time I look at you, I see my own lust is another lyric in that song. It's a slight difference, I think, between I Hate Myself for Loving You and Worst, is that in Worst, the voice doesn't really think that it's love here, and the voice needs to speak out, again related to the calling out toxic masculinity, another part of the kind of original mission statement in the song SURLY Girl, like calling out this is lust actually, and I know that I'm caught up in it too, and I don't like that either. Walk the Talk is the song immediately before Worst on the record, and that's another interesting one where the frustration of essentially just not being able to trust the man to talk things through in a real way.
That one's definitely less about romance and relationships.
More about friend.
It's more about like people being all talk, no action. Like
walk
talking,
the walk, talk the talk.
Yeah. Talking big game, and then when it comes down to it, like, they never get there. They never get to actually acting on what they're saying.
Like the hero in
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's definitely easy to like say you're all for this, or you're gonna stand up for this person, or against hatred and bigotry, and then a lot of times when it like gets down to it, that whole value system like kind of melts away.
Yeah. I will say these things and claim that I will do these things for as long as I can, in the meanwhile, just comfortably rest on my laurels that I have purely for saying I will do these things.
Yeah.
Walk the Talk is another song that goes into halftime or like shifts with tempo at the end. And once again, it corresponds with an important shift, I feel. And one of my favorite bits in a Surly Girly song is when that happens and then the address is figure out what you stand for or you can just walk out the door. I think that's the case of I'm a surly girl because I don't take shit.
And then I won't put up with your shit anymore is the rest of that line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it goes right back.
It's like, okay, it's because it's a kind of friendly case of, okay, here is your opportunity to walk the walk. I'm addressing you, and you can listen if you can. Yeah, exactly. You can listen and respond and grow with me. I'm all about growing with other people. Just witness me addressing the little girl lovingly.
Yeah.
Like I'm all about growing with people, but I could only do that if the person listens, and that's just the start.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard the whole song Rapture. I've seen a video clip of a particularly intense part of it. Something that we've been returning to and celebrating throughout are these moments where the dynamics shift, and often that's in my experience on the first record, that almost always or always corresponds with an important shift in the mode of address and the emotional feel of that part of the song. Do you have any favorite moments in the new songs that will be on the new record where you're using dynamics and songcraft in analogous ways or new ways?
Yeah, for Rapture, I'd say that one is a little more consistently heavy, or like the same kind of energy for most of it. There is you called it. There is like a dropped back section near the end that then builds back up. And the lyrics of that the lyrics in the whole song were written very intentionally. So we're trying to have the lyrics kind of really come through. And there are a couple moments where the music kind of stops so that you can hear certain lyrics. But at the end, the very last repeated line that wraps up the song is, you say you want to change, but you're standing still, hiding in the comfort of your privilege kills. And that one is fun to play live because people start saying it along with us. And it's also something that like a lot of those people do, like
hide in the comfort of their privilege.
Yeah, and
in a way
to be fair, we do too. It's not something you can necessarily like just turn off, because privilege is something that gets seeped into you by the way that you're raised and the like circumstances that you're around and your identity and how you appear to others. And it's not something that you can just say, I'm ignoring my privilege and like I'm not affected by it. But yeah, especially on a music scene where there are a lot of like political bands, there's a lot of like outwardly queer bands and feminist bands. It's just something that we want everyone to be thinking about, how you can perform your ideals, you can talk about them. It's like walk the talk, but you are often hiding in the comfort of your privilege that is actively affecting other people and hurting other people. And you keep saying that you want change or you want to change, and you're not actually doing anything. And actually standing still, you say you want to change, but you're standing still. It's been a while, so I don't remember who actually wrote this analogy, but there's a great analogy about, is that the right word? Maybe.
Say what you're
It was a great analogy about a moving walkway of, I think specifically it was about racism, where if you are standing still on the walkway, you're going with the flow, and you have to actively walk against it to go the other direction.
Yep.
So you say you want to change, but you're standing still is kind of thinking like you aren't actually doing anything, and by not doing anything, you're getting swept up in the wrong direction.
Yeah, participating in that momentum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems analogous. The moment that you're talking about in Rapture is analogous in some ways to the moment in Trigger Warning where we shift from did you ask this? Did you ask? Did you ask if she wanted it? Did you ask if she was okay? Why didn't you ask? Like the shift there, it's again giving the opportunity for someone who has the potential to grow to listen
Yeah, hopefully.
and adapt
Yeah.
and grow. And so actually, what with us having heard Venus Arriving, this provides a nice seg to the special trans anthem single. Before we invite Venus in, I'm just going to share some of the lyrics because they relate to the discussion
Awesome.
that we've been having and the possibility of change and an alternative to the defensiveness that we've been recognizing as a infuriating impediment. I'm just going to read the lyrics to
Please.
you, and then let's see what your thoughts are on the lyrics, and then we'll invite Venus in too.
Awesome.
Okay, so the song is called Even with Scars. My dream isn't so strange, doesn't take change that you can't manage. In your despair, even right there, you're damaged. We are here, every last one, never will run. Even so, we know fear, taken in pain, but never in vain. We are free, free as the sky, never so high. We are free, free as the stars. Even with scars, we are free. My dream isn't so hard. Let down your guard. Look around. My dream could be sublime. Let's all be kind. We are free. My dream isn't so strange. Doesn't take change that you can't manage. It seems very, very in keeping with the conversation we've just been having.
Yeah.
Breaking past your political, thinking fast. I won't be taken in by tyrannical. I can fly. It's like, I am this. And I don't take shits. And then with the choir, all singing these lyrics, I can imagine some of the lyrics landing and maybe the audience participating also. What thoughts do you have on just the lyrics, which is all you know of the song so far, and the way in which the song also is addressed to a potential ally? And it ends, my dream isn't so hard, let down your guard, be a friend. The way in which the song ends.
That's I admire Venus for that, well, for all those lyrics, but especially that last line, because one of the hardest things to do is to make an effort to invite people in who have pushed you out. And it takes so much energy to try to create allies where someone isn't already an ally. And it's energy that shouldn't have to be spent by the queer, femme, trans people who are affected by their lack of allyship. But it does fall on us to do that work because, like Venus said, like the vision doesn't seem that hard, and it's just that people aren't actually working towards it. They're going with the walkway. They're not moving against it to actually allow like this vision to exist safely and thoroughly. Yeah.
I think also, like, you know, she's like actively reaching a hand out, and I kind of relate that to our stuff because we're almost always being like, fuck you, like, you're a terrible person, like, but yeah, I agree with Maeve, like, that's a very powerful and, like, brave thing to do, because you gotta, like, swallow your own pride to be able to do that. And it's just so much work.
Yeah, it can be really hard to like extend a hand like that. We sometimes, if needed, will call out abusers on the scene on our social media, and there's always the question of like, well, what can they do for accountability? What can they do to be better? And I know that that's something that everyone wants to be offered, so that there's room for growth and change and potential allyship, but at the same time, it's so exhausting to try to offer those steps for someone else when you're someone who's affected by their actions, or even like in a group that's affected by their actions. And yeah, I don't know. I think Venus is so incredible, and like she has so much patience to be able to say that, and also so much strength. Like that could really help to have it come off as an extended hand versus a call out.
Be a friend.
Be a friend,
for that to be how this song lands, and an invitation.
Yeah.
Despite the, all the trauma that one, it's an extremely courageous act, isn't it, to address someone who even just reminds oneself of the various people that one has been hurt is too light a word by, but to courageously address that person and see the potential, and to not take any shit, and to be the one offering the possibility.
It's a hard balance to strike. I also love the "We are free" lines, especially when she's also talking about the pain that might have to be endured and the lack of like acceptance that there is for a seemingly simple vision. You've heard me talk about this before, but that made me think of Nadia Tolokonnikova from Pussy Riot. When they were arrested in 2012, she wrote about this later, but she said that one of the most powerful things you can do in the face of your oppressor is smile. And that line made me think of that, because sometimes you have to declare that you are happy and free in order to make that happen for yourself. And I also think it can be a really good fuck you to anyone who doesn't want that to be the case.
One of the best kinds of fuck yous. Yeah. We are here, every last one, never will run. Even so, we know fear, taken in pain, but never in vain. So much is encapsulated there, I think.
Yeah.
Venus came out as transgender in 1988, and that's emphasized in the bio that Venus composed especially for this Saturday's Pride event. And then the bio continues, a time when identifying as trans meant being classified as having a mental perversion and living as an outcast. Her refusal to live a shadow existence, instead embracing her uniqueness, complicated her musical and artistic career paths. She is now mid-process in writing a memoir reflecting her 30-year trans journey and place in this fast-changing, trans-embracing / backlashing world where we now find ourselves. She's working on a new album due out at the end of the year, and this new single that we've been discussing, which is due to be released at the end of the month. I think that we should now invite Venus to join us. Yeah, we look forward to having Venus.
Oh, yeah.
Here is Venus. Welcome, Venus.
Hey!
Thank you for letting us crash your video shoot.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wanted to know
Any
that
last
Venus?
word?
What do you have to say?
Yeah. Love you, Venus. Super stoked for this bill and upcoming album. Simon was, well, you heard. All of the awesome things coming out. And
Amazing.
yeah, June's gonna be a awesome month.
They're playing at Mortimer's every Wednesday in June. It's the third
Which you did
time that
last
they've done
year
that
with
in
us.
Pride
Yeah.
Month.
Yeah. So
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here with us.
yeah.
See you.
I'm glad I
see
got
you.
to do
See you
it.
on Saturday. See you this Saturday.
Yeah.